Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore and I'm joined here by my lovely co-host Maria Casillas, as well as a special guest, which I will get to introducing here in just a few moments. But before I do any of that, I just want to say it's good to be back. I missed last week. I had a lot going on and I kind of filled in Maria very last second. I was like, hey, I can't make it. Good luck. And she was like, thanks, Cody. So it's good to be back. It's good to be back. But, before we jump into anything too deeply, I will say that the episode that we have today is going to be very exciting. It's kind of a mind-blowing situation as to what's been going on with our guest. And it's an awesome, awesome blessing with everything too. But before we get into that, I want to just say a few things. Number one would be, hey, if you are not connected with us in some way, shape, or form, aside from just listening to us talk, you should be connected with us. So one way for you to do that is to join our Facebook group, which is simply called the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. And it's a really good way for us to just meet you, connect with you, answer any questions that you might have. Maybe you have a question that you want to be, discussed on this podcast. That's a great way to ask those questions and to have that kind of interaction. And we'd love to meet you. So join in that. That's free. It's growing and it's a really cool resource for everyone to be involved with. And aside from that, that's really all I wanted to say. I just want to say, hey, it's good to see you guys. It's good to talk to you guys. It's good to be back in this room. And with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and shut up. I'm going to say hello to Maria, and I'm also going to welcome in our very special guest today, which would be Karen Hackman. She is a financial coach herself, and I'll let her just tell her story about what's been going on in her world for the last 6 or so weeks, give or take a couple weeks. So Karen, welcome in. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about you, who you are, how you got into this, and just a little bit about what you've been having going on over these last several weeks.
Okay, thanks so much for having me. I just want to say that I love your podcast and I'm excited to be here. I am an every weeker, so it's a real pleasure to be with you guys. Okay, so yes, you said I am a finance coach. I specialize in helping couples to get on the same financial page. There is a bit of a backstory, but I won't bore you with the details right now. But so I started this as a side hustle nearly a couple of years ago now, back in July 2023. And it was just been plodding along, and my email list has been growing slowly. And just up until a few weeks ago, it was still only at 130 email subs. And I was really happy to be over that 100 mark. And just increasing really. So that was really exciting. But also just to bring value to people, I host a Facebook group, and it used to be called No Spend Challenge 2024, and there were a few hundred people in there, not many. And towards the end of October, November, I put a poll out in the group, and I said, "Would you like me to continue this group? Are you finding value in it?" And all the people that voted said, yes, please continue it. So I kind of, I was a bit nervous, to be fair, and I changed the name to No Spend Challenge 2025. And that was fine. And I remember December 5th, I wrote, we had 500 members, and I wrote a post saying, great to have you here. I'm excited. We're going to do great in 2025. And then December came, and basically in the space of 4 weeks, and now we're on January 22nd, 2025, and there are now over 190,000 people in that group. So I'm really excited, overwhelmed. Yeah. But I am really excited that over 190,000 families want to be more mindful of their spending. They want to be more intentional, and the group is very supportive and encouraging, and it's just really exciting to be in. And so there we are. So it's just gone a bit crazy.
If I heard you correctly, Karen, all you did was change the date in that title?
Yes, I
Like
did.
it went from 2024 or 2024 No Spend Challenge and you changed it to 2025?
It was No Spend Challenge 2024, and I changed it to 2025 No Spend Challenge. So I just put the year at the beginning.
Wow.
And that was the only thing.
Wow. That is incredible. That just one slight shift like that would make such a difference. I actually knew a little bit of the backstory. And when I say that, I mean, I knew that you had changed the title. And I remember saying, oh, well, that's a great title. Of course, people are excited. You know, the new year's coming up and blah, blah, blah. I had no idea you literally just changed the date and swapped the way that you placed it. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So can you imagine that, you know, along the Christmas holiday period, I was waking up and I was just logging in, and there were like over 1,000 people wanting to join, and the numbers just went through the roof. And even New Year's Eve, I was telling my friends I had 30,000 people in the group. So just in less than 3 weeks, 190,000. Madness.
Yeah. And what I think is really cool is that all of this happened organically as well. Like, you didn't need to put any money into it or anything like that. And it's incredible that happened. You know, the way that happened is that there's a small group of people that all joined in at one time at first. And then Facebook was like, oh, this is kind of cool. We'll push this out to a few more people. And then more people joined. And then they're like, okay, we'll push this out some more. We'll see what happens. And then it just kept going and going and going until it became this thing to where, like you mentioned, it's almost hard to keep up with. You know, because there's literally hundreds of thousands of people in this group now that have joined over the last 6 weeks. Like, it's just nuts, you know? So it's super exciting for you, and I'm really, really happy for you, and I'm proud of you as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So with this, there's a new challenge for you because you haven't had anything like this happen before. And it's like, okay, well, I have this awesome community now. What do I do from here? Right. So we were kind of talking a little bit right before we pressed record about what this episode is really going to be about. And it's going to be in a little bit of a different structure than we typically do. And really, we want to just kind of meet Karen where she's at and, you know, support her with this incredible blessing that's been bestowed upon her, and just maybe answer some of the questions that she might have that come with a rapidly growing audience and how to capitalize with that and take things to the next step to where we can really start turning this into something where it's just a community to instead something that can really be impactful for you and the people that you serve. So that's how this is going to go today. So Karen, at any point that you feel like you want to just like start asking questions or, you know, asking for feedback or whatever it might be, I'm just going to turn this over to you right now, and we'll kind of just start there. So you steer the boat, sister, and tell us where we're going.
Okay. So because of the group, I've been able to give out my freebie, market my freebie, and get people on my email list. So back in early December, I only had 130 people on my email list, and I say only, you know, that was after 18 months of hard work, going on podcasts, putting my blog out there, reaching out to people. And then because of this captive audience, I've been able to grow my email list significantly. And now it's just over 850 people. So my question is, how can I now not only bring value, but also how can I turn them into paying clients?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So around your email list, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's first start with how you got people to be from the group into your email list. Can you give us a little bit of context about that?
Yeah, sure. So when I first started, because I focus on financial coaching for couples, I created this ebook, which is full of top tips on how you can get on the same financial page as your spouse. And that came about simply because my husband and I, for 18 years, were not on the same financial page. And so when we finally started talking about money, I thought to myself, I cannot be the only person who is struggling to talk to their spouse about money. And that's why my whole little business called Money and Marriage started. And then over time, I was thinking, okay, I'm promoting this freebie everywhere, but it's not really going very well, or just a few people. So then I created what I call an intentional spending plan. And, I created it at the beginning in order to sell it. But then I kind of thought, okay, don't sell it, give it away. And that's been my biggest lead magnet. And then more recently, I have created because I, again, want to talk to couples, probably want to get to them if they are recently engaged or newlywed. I created a wedding expenses tracker because I know that weddings, probably in the US as well as the UK, are extremely expensive and you can really lose track of your wedding budget. So I created that. So those are my 3 freebies. And so I just kind of in the questions for the group, it used to be, one of the questions was, would you like a free copy of my intentional spending plan? Type yes below and I will send you the link. But obviously, as the group got bigger and bigger, I couldn't keep up with that. So every now and again, I post in the group, welcome, it's great to have you here. We are a friendly group. And by the way, if you like this intentional spending plan, click on the link below. And that is still my most popular freebie. Second is my how to get on the same financial page as your spouse. And then it's the wedding expenses tracker. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It does. And I think that what you're doing with that right now is great. Like that's exactly what you should be doing, right? Like you have these lead magnets or freebies, as you called it, and you just like offer that to that captive audience. Now, the benefit of that is that, you're the admin in that group. So your posts get, higher priority than maybe someone else's. Yeah. And it is a captive audience. Now, the drawback from that is that while your group is not only having almost 200,000 people in there, but also it's a very active group too. Like there's people posting in there like several times a minute kind of thing. So those posts do get buried as well. So, that's kind of the drawback of that too. So, what you're doing by just being consistent with that and trying to provide value, consistently through that and from time to time is a good thing. And you should continue to do that. But I think that what's important is once people sign up for those and, whether it be the freebie, whether it be something else, and you get them on your email list, then it's a whole other animal of like, okay, they're on my email list. How do I nurture these people to eventually become paying clients as well? And I think that that's really what you're trying to ask. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So I have a couple thoughts. But Maria, do you have anything or no?
I'm curious to know, what are you doing right now to nurture that list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On my end, you mean?
No, sorry.
Oh, on her end. Okay.
Yes, on her end. Sorry. I'm looking right at her at the screen. Can't you tell?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Yes, Karen, what is it that you're doing right now to nurture the 800 people who are on your list?
Okay, so I send them a weekly email, and sometimes that's just bringing value. It's almost always linking to one of my blogs, kind of a summary of my blog. And if you want more information, click on this blog to read more. Sometimes, like this week coming out, I've got like a poll. I'm thinking about running workshops every month. I ran one back at the beginning of January, and that got a really good. There's 18 people in the workshop, which I thought was brilliant, and then just bringing lots and lots of value, and just being there for when they want to hit reply and ask me some questions. So just basically, just bringing the value and encouraging them right now, and obviously hosting workshops.
Okay, good. So that'll give us an idea of what we can use for a springboard. Now, before I have Cody jump in, I do want to just point out to our listeners what Karen mentioned at the beginning of her telling the story. And it was that it took a really long time and it felt drudgery almost to get that first 100 or so people. And then out of nowhere, it seemed, there was this boom. And I think that that's really how success happens for anybody. Now, that boom might happen after 1,000 people, of drudgery before it actually booms for you. But I can't help but think of the compound effect here, where it takes a long time of pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping and feeling like you're not getting any results from that, maybe a couple drops here and there. And then out of nowhere, it starts to stream. And so I just want to encourage everybody who's listening today. Some of you might go, oh, that's great. Like that happened to her. When is my turn? We don't know. We don't know when your turn is. But what we do know is that Karen didn't give up. And there were probably lots of times when you wanted to give up. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I was I doubting myself? I really heard, I know that you guys are Christians, and I really heard that over a year ago, God said to me, I'm doing a new thing. And I'm like, okay. I'm trusting you. You've got this sorted. I have to be patient. But there were some weeks, Maria, when I only had 3 new email subs. And I was like, come on, how much longer? So just like you said, one of your previous podcasts, don't give up. Just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad that you did that. I'm really grateful that you had that blessing, like Cody said, bestowed upon you. And so now you're wanting to be a good steward of that blessing. And so that's where we are in the conversation now. You're already starting to use your skills to nurture the people who are on there. And I like the idea that you're doing a poll to find out what it is that they want, because let's get real. That's how your group grew too. You did a poll. You asked them what it is that they wanted. They spoke back to you. You answered. And it grew. So I like that you're not just trying to play the guessing game with your potential clients.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And much like Maria had mentioned about, the continuing to show up and the grind of, not giving up around the Facebook group, it's also the same thing around the email list, as well as also creating new clients who are like, paying clients as well. It's the same exact thing. So this is something that you're going to have to put, some time into, some energy into, some creativity into. And hey, will you get a client tomorrow? Maybe. Will you get a client in a month? Maybe. Like, we don't know, so that is, I'm really glad you brought that up, Maria, because it's a huge part of it, even with Karen's situation, to where, we've been just blown up with like this awesome Facebook community. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to then immediately correlate into clients right away. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as a perspective. But I really do like what you're doing with your email list right now. Like you mentioned that you're providing a lot of value, you're doing blog posts, you're sending out these freebies, like stuff like that. That's stuff that I would say you should continue to do. And you should do it often. Yeah. I would also say like something that I like to do with my email list from time to time is, I do those 2 things, the providing value, giving out blog posts, giving out freebies, stuff like that. But one other thing that I like to do too is like if I'm talking to someone, whether it be a client or whether it just be an observation of what I'm kind of noticing in today's day and age around money, I will send out what I would call like an encouraging message. And there's no call to action. There's no click this link for that or anything like that. It's just an email that just says, hey, this is something that I feel like maybe I've noticed people struggle with. And this is what it feels like for them. This is how it affects them. And I just want you to know that you can overcome this, and here's how and here's why, kind of thing. Cheering you on, rooting for you. If you need anything or if this resonated with you, hit reply and let me know, kind of thing. And I think that those are very valuable because people are used to some sort of like, hey, here's something for to give you a little bit of value, but I also want this from you too.
Okay.
Right. Whereas like if you were to send out those encouraging messages, it's nothing like that. It's just like, hey, I'm just here for you. You're in my email list, you're in my community, and I just want to be here for you. Yeah. And I've done that in the past, and I've seen a lot of people respond to those messages and say something along the lines of like, hey, thank you so much. I really needed this today. This really resonated with me, blah, blah, blah. And when they do that, you can, start the conversation and see where it kind of goes. but
Yeah.
just that, like, I'm just giving it all and I don't want anything from you. I don't want you to, give me your email. I mean, you already have it. I don't want you to sign up for a consultation, like nothing. I just want to be there for you. I found that those go a really long way. So that
That's
might be
good.
something to maybe consider too. No blog posts, no freebie, nothing. Just an
Okay.
encouraging message.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I could definitely do that next week. I will for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's one idea. I also would. So you have a couple workshops coming up, right? Like a couple live events.
I haven't planned any yet. Basically, this week's in my weekly email this week, it's a question: which workshop would you like?
Okay. Cool. Because that's definitely something that you can promote as well. And now, obviously, you can promote it in your group. But again, with so many people in there, you might be able to reach a decent amount of them, but also you won't be able to reach a lot of them too. But the people who are on your email list, those are the people who really want to be involved with you.
Yes.
Like a lot, right? And they might miss those posts in the Facebook group. So I would also promote those, workshops or live events via your email list as well to get them to sign up for that. And then, when they show up, then you have like an interactive kind of space there. And, obviously your call to action for that could be to maybe sign up for a consultation, something like that. But that's another thing that you could definitely do. And you could also consider doing giveaways as well. So, and what I mean by that is like on my end with my email list, probably like 3 or 4 times a year. And it's usually around certain times. Maybe it's around Christmas. Maybe it's around New Year's. Maybe it's around like sometime in the summer, like whatever it might be. I'll run some sort of like, hey, I'm feeling generous, or this thing is happening in the world right now, or it's this time of year, and I just want to give back, and I want to, give this to be like, my email list exclusive of giving out like free financial coaching sessions, 5 of them. I'm only doing 5, first come, first serve. This email is going out to 1,000 people. So if you want it, you can do it. And that free coaching session, while it is a free coaching session, it's essentially doubling as like a consultation as well. And, you just be there, you help them. And then towards the end of it, you can say, hey, I know that this was a free consultation, but if you were interested in kind of like taking things to the next level and taking a next step, and you had it at any kind of curiosity is what it looks like to work with me or to help me support you, I'd be happy to unpack that for you if you'd like. Some people will say yes, some people will say no. But the people who say yes, they could then become a potential client as well. So I found that giveaways for even just like your time, not a resource, but like a one-on-one kind of thing to where it's specific to them, that goes a long way too.
Yeah.
Long way.
That's great. Thank you. I will definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would also add that since Cody has given so many good ideas, that maybe you consider doing more than one a week. Because our attention span is about 14 seconds in today's society. So if you're showing up in somebody's inbox just one time a week, I like the idea of there being a consistent expectation from your clients or your potential clients, your email list. So they might know on this particular day, around this time, I'm going to get to see a blog post or something from Karen. But if you're also doing giveaways and you're also doing polls and you're also doing some of these other things, if you just choose one day a week where you're not being consistent with what it is that you put out, I think that it'll be exciting, but at the same time, it'll get lost very quickly. So I don't know what kind of time you have. Maybe you could set some of it on a little bit of an auto drip or something. But maybe touching base, I don't know. What do you think, Cody? 3 times a week, 2 times a week? I mean, I don't want to triple what you're doing right now, but I do think that if you're using some of these ideas, doing just one won't satiate your audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would even say like something that you could maybe look into. I don't know what you use for your email list or like a CRM. What do you use, Karen?
ConvertKit, which is now Kit. Is that what you mean?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
ConvertKit. or kit.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that one, but I know that there's a lot of like CRMs that you can basically, like what Maria said, do like a drip campaign. So from like the moment that they enter your email list, you may have like an automated set of emails that kind of go out. Maybe it's like 15 emails kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same for every person. And they'll get that on top of your weekly blog posts as well. But maybe you kind of structure it towards like the first week, they would get 4 emails. So like once every other day. The next week, they would get 3. The next week after that, they get 2. And then it would go to 1. And, you know, some of it would be, you know, welcome aboard into the community. Happy to have you. Let us know if we can do anything. Some of it might be some freebies. Some of it might be some encouraging messages. Some of it might be a call to action to book a consultation kind of thing. But I think that having like that 15-ish or so kind of like automated drip email to where you're nurturing them quite a bit in the first few weeks, and then it kind of slowly tapers off until they become a part of like your general audience with your email list, that would also be really good too. That way you can build that foundation with them early on, and then, you know, you slowly taper it off so that you're not overwhelming them all the time, multiple times a week kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Cody. So at the minute, I have, when they sign up for a freebie, a lead magnet, I have like 4 or 5 emails going out like every day to them. So you think I should stagger that a bit more and add a few more on the end?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you said 4 or 5 emails per day or in a row?
1 a day.
Okay. Yeah, so something like that. But, you know, I would say like for the first week, if it's 4 or 5 in that first week, once a day, maybe the next week, extend it a little bit and do it like once every 2 or 3 days. And then the next week, do it once every the next week could be like 1 or 2 times a week, and then so on and so forth. But I think that the more nurturing that you can do with these people, the better, you know?
That's great. Thank you. And so what I do with my emails, my weekly email, I make sure that they finish that email sequence first, because I don't want to confuse them. Is that okay?
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's exactly what you should do, for sure. Because you don't want to create confusion or overwhelm for people. You know, it's that fine line of like being there, but not being annoying.
Yes.
That's the fine line, you know, and you gotta nurture that to make sure that you're in a good space with that. So let's assume that, you know, you nurturing these people through your email list really works out for you, and you start getting a lot of consultations and potentially even signing on a lot of new clients. I don't know like how much time you can invest into your coaching practice, but I would imagine that, you know, it might grow to a certain point to where you might need to think about being more efficient with the time that you're spending with your clients. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember you asked some questions around group coaching too. Yeah. So what were you kind of curious about group coaching?
So I was thinking, when my signature framework is a 5-week coaching program on discover financial success as a married couple. So I was thinking, and I've done this before with a few couples, and it's gone really well, and I've had so much positive feedback. And so then I was thinking, you know, so not to overwhelm myself, and maybe even for some like a community spirit, having 4 couples as part of a group coaching. And somebody said to me, well, you could have 8 to 10 couples, but I'm thinking 4 couples to start off with, to see how I go. You know, I don't want that overwhelm. It's a bit like, for me, it's a bit like going to a community Bible study. I always think if there's more than 6 people in there, then you kind of like lost that intimacy and that intimate feeling. And then, so I want to kind of keep it special. So I was thinking maybe 4 couples maximum at a time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you mentioned it would be 5 weeks. So 1 meeting per week. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So 5 weeks, 1 meeting per week. 4 couples in the group is the goal.
Yes.
So really 8 people kind of thing. How much time would you be investing into those meetings when you do meet? Are they hour long? Are they 2 hours? Somewhere between?
No, it'll be around an hour, maximum 90 minutes. Depending, you know what it's like, depending how much people talk, you know, and answer the questions and participate and get, you know, engage really. So, you know, an hour, maximum an hour and a half each session.
Okay, gotcha. And during those meetings, I mean, I'd imagine that a decent amount of them would be you teaching, right? Whether it be teaching them how to handle their finances, whether it be teaching them how to communicate, you know, different things like that, right? Would there be any sort of time allotted for them to ask questions, for you to do a deep dive within their own unique situation? And if so, how are you planning on handling that while keeping in mind that, like, hey, we have like an hour to an hour and a half to accomplish all of the value that I want to make sure that you get through the teaching, but then also meet you where you're at to support you with what you're dealing with individually as well. Yeah. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, so I've got like a little workbook that goes with the program. And so it's very much open-ended questions, thinking about where they've come from as a family upbringing. And now, you know, they're a couple and they're creating a new way. So lots of open-ended questions. And so I was thinking, do they, like in Zoom, do they have breakout rooms where they can talk as a couple, or if they want to, they like to share what they're talking about with everybody, you know, and then just having it's a bit of a conversation and just seeing where it goes, and then bringing them in and giving them some top tips, and suggesting some ways, maybe, you know, or encouraging each other to maybe suggesting ways that they can rethink about things, you know, just check their mindset and reframe questions when they're talking about money to each other. Things like that.
Okay, gotcha. So I have a few suggestions and a little bit of insight on some of the stuff that I do with my own group coaching. But I've been talking a lot, so I want to give Maria an opportunity to kind of chime in if she feels like she'd like to.
You must think I like to talk a lot.
I know you like to talk.
I am curious more than anything, Karen. You mentioned that you've gotten a lot of feedback already from people that you've already done this with. What top 1 or 2 values have they said that they've received from working with you in this modality?
So the number one thing was that they've never talked about money before. They've either been married between like 13 and 20 years, and they've never really discussed finances together. They've had separate bank accounts. Or they've had joint bank accounts, and in one situation the wife had the card but she didn't have the banking app. She had no clue what was going on inside their bank accounts, and then the husband was getting cross because she'd go out and spend all this money on the bank card, and it's just communication. They weren't being open and honest with one another. They just weren't talking about it. So the biggest takeaway has been that they are now talking about money. They now have they've got a spreadsheet, if you like, or an app that they use where they are now able to see where their money is going together.
Okay. And when you had your groups that you've kind of already tried this out with, how many couples were in that?
Oh, no, so it wasn't. So this was individuals. So I've spoken to couples individually, yeah. So the group coaching is something that I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I like to encourage people to do is ask themselves why you're doing the group coaching. And I know that Cody kind of presented it as a means of efficiency for you. And I'm going to encourage you to figure out what added value will there be for the clients if and when you decide to go to a group coaching model?
I think the sense of community and knowing that they're not on their own, and there are other couples that maybe have got other questions that they hadn't thought about before, and that support and that encouragement in that community, and knowing that, you know, there's nothing that's impossible, that they can and I just kind of like that to grow a friendship, to work with couples and just to grow together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so have you asked yourself that question prior to me asking you?
Yes, because I know that for some couples, if you've got a reluctant or an overwhelmed spouse, they may not appreciate the group coaching. But then from others who are maybe extroverts and would get their energy from talking with other people. But then for some people who are introverts and maybe quite anxious about talking about money to other people, the one-on-one would be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, I mean, even the introverts sometimes will benefit greatly from something like group coaching. And so I'm actually making more of a case for it rather than against it. I just want to frame it in a way where if you can write down what you've identified as potential benefits for the client, then you will start to speak about it in those terms. And that's going to be important for them, because what you don't want is them to assume, well, she's just trying to make this efficient. And so she's giving me less of her time so that I can give her more of my money per hour, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But they're really, because it will be lost. And I came from, I don't know how much you know about my background, but I actually come from a counseling background, and it was specifically in substance abuse counseling. And so I have the great honor of doing both individual counseling and group counseling. And it really is a skill. It's not just something that you throw a bunch of people into a room and try to do the same thing with 7 that you would have done with 1.
Yeah.
But it was one of my favorite modalities. And it was because of a lot of the things that you mentioned already. And so it was funny. I started telling Mike and Nino at New Money Habits, I really want to do group coaching before it was an actual thing that got that became popular. And it was because of all of the benefits that I know come of it. So I encourage you to think about it in those terms. Even write them down if you need to, so that when you're talking to people, you are sharing the benefits that they're going to get from it without even thinking about the efficiency part of it. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know that that's something that I really believe clients can benefit from. Also, to your number, it's a great number. One of the times that I look at group coaching, I think 8 to 10 is actually a pretty decent number. I wouldn't go higher than 10 people, but because you're talking about couples, it is, even though it seems like 4 paying clients, it's 8 personalities that are in that room and that you have to be able to manage. And I would actually venture to say that's more like 12 personalities, because you've got the man, you've got the woman, and you've got them together. Like that's like almost like a 3-in-1 shot that you've got. So, the amount of nonverbal communication that you're going to witness in a group like that will be exponential, because, anytime you sit, at a service and you hear readings from the Bible where they talk about, don't do this, or honor your father and mother, or, wives be submissive, like, that the nonverbal communication that's going on in the group is huge, right? You've got eyes daggering at each other and elbows nudging everybody. And so you're going to have to be aware of all of that nonverbal stuff that's going on. So your job is actually going to be much more difficult in that hour and a half than it would be with one person. But I think it's also going to be very, very beneficial for the couples. So
thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I agree. And to that point, because it's probably going to be more than what we initially think, I'm going to make the suggestion that we create more space for people to get the value and also the support from that program. Because I like that your group program idea is a shorter period of time. So I like that it's 5 weeks. And I also like that you mentioned that you wanted to create like workbooks for people to work on their own time so that they come to the meetings prepared and all that kinds of stuff too.
Yeah.
And I do the same exact structure with my group coaching as well. Mine's a little bit longer than yours. Mine's an 8-week program, but it also has a workbook to kind of complement some of the lessons and the things I want them to get out of the program as well. So we're very aligned in those kind of regards. But one thing that I've found, or 2 things that I found that really does help, not only provide more value to your clients, but also it gives them more opportunity to feel supported, feel heard, and get what they really want out of it as well, which then will then turn into more clients from referrals as well. Is two things.
Yeah.
The way that I structure it is I have a teaching call in my group program. And that's, on those meetings, we would go through a workbook. We would, go over some sort of lesson or whatever I'm trying to get them to learn, kind of thing. And primarily those are just kind of centered around me teaching, answering a couple questions from time to time as well, and asking for some feedback. I make the teaching interactive. It's not just like sit back in your chair and listen to this lecture kind of thing. But, I have that kind of call. And then I also have a second call throughout the week that's called what I will call like a support call. And those calls are really there for you to just be there and for your clients to come to the meeting and you just say, hey guys, with what we have worked on so far and everything that's going on in your world specifically, how can I meet you where you're at and support you? Right? Because there's going to be some people that will have questions around what you're teaching. But then there might be some people who have something unique in their world going on that they need help navigating through. But you won't really know that unless you give a space for them to do that, right? Yeah. So the way I structure it is I keep, I do Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? So my Thursdays would be my teaching, to which then they have the whole weekend and into the early half of the next week to work on the things that we taught on. And then Tuesdays would be the support calls, to where I would see like, okay, now you've had some time to let things develop, to let things sink in. What do you need support with, kind of thing? So whether it be, 2 meetings in a week, like I have, whether it be, you have a 5-week program that you then extend into a 10-week program to where there's 5 lessons and 5 support calls, that's fine too. But that is one thing that I would make a suggestion on, because it's going to make people feel like you're meeting them where they're at, versus just talking to them, right? That's one suggestion. And the other suggestion is I would create some sort of inner community with them within like, their own group, right? So maybe it's like a Slack channel. Maybe it's some sort of group messaging kind of platform that you can have almost act as like a 24/7 help desk, to where they can submit questions to you. Maybe it's on a Saturday afternoon and they need some help, but you're not meeting until Tuesday, kind of thing. Like they can reach out to you on Saturday and you can be there to support them. And also they can support each other. They can start building that community. They can, help answer questions that some of the other clients might have. They might be there to support them, cheer them on, encourage them, hold them accountable, all of those types of things. The more community basis, or the more community kind of elements that you can put into that, the better, and the more the clients are going to get out of it, which is just going to make your program more effective. And then they're going to go tell their friends and all these different types of things. So those are my 2 suggestions for you that I haven't heard you say. Maybe you have those things in place, but I didn't hear it. So I just want to make sure that I said that.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
One other idea that just came to mind is and it came because of Cody mentioned referrals, but as you're growing the group, I always think it's fun to just start with what you have. So don't wait until you have 4 couples, especially if 4 couples is your maximum. Go ahead and just start. But I would say if you have somebody who knows they want to work with you, invite them to invite a friend couple to come with them. I mean, there might be someone who's like, I don't want my friends to actually know what's going on. But I remember when I went to something similar, it was like FPU or something like that. And I brought a friend couple of ours with, like, we had done a lot of other things together and they knew that this was something we wanted to do. And so we actually made a fun, almost like double date night out of it. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but it was something that we said we want to be able to do this and we want to connect not just with each other, but with some other friends as well. And then it kind of takes away some of that angst, I think, of, being the only ones who are in the room. So it might be kind of a fun little challenge that you have to have somebody come along with them.
No, I like that a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Karen, anything else that we can support you with?
No, I love the ideas. Thank you so much. I'm going to put all of them into action over the next few weeks. So, I will be in touch. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you for coming on today. I know that this was a little bit of a different type of structure for us, but I actually really enjoyed it, to be honest with you. And I just want to share this. Like, I'm so happy for you that this is like happening. It's a good problem to have, to where you're overwhelmed with all of these people. You know, like, there's so many of us who are listening to this, and even who are on this show talking in this very moment, being me, who's like, I wish that I had that problem, you know? So it's an awesome thing, and I'm really excited to see, you know, how this kind of develops for you moving forward. What I will say is this: there's a reason why this happened to you. And it's all going to be coming to fruition. You know, you just need to do what you need to do, which I know that you will. And, you know, I can tell that you're the type of person that wants to lead from their heart first. And that's why I think that you're going to be rewarded for this. So great job. Keep trucking, sister.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Well, with that being said, thank you guys, the listeners, for chiming in for yet another week of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We hope to see you next week as well. And hey, if you were to listen to this one and you listen to the one next week, technically you're an everydayer. So,
Weaker.
you know, an every weeker. I listen to another podcast that calls us everydayers as well. It's a Detroit Lions podcast. It is what it is. But yeah, you'd be an every weeker. And, you know, we've had some people chime in and say that they are every weekers in the Facebook group, and we love seeing that. So, you know, continue to just chime in there, join in, and we'll catch you guys next week. You guys take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.